Good evening. We're back again with a special episode of the Red Sea podcast where we will be discussing the African Cup of Nations. Liverpool have got 3 players in the tournament in Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah and Naby Keita, 2 of which played today and grinded out much needed 1-0 victories against their opponents. But we're going to dig into that, get into all the meat and the bones about those particular games on the other side of this intro.
Tell the world we are Liverpool, champions of England.
We've conquered all of Europe. We're never gonna stop. From Palestine to Turkey, we've won the fucking lot. But Paisley and the Shankly, the fields of Anfield gold. We are unsupported, and we come from Liverpool.
Yes, guys. We are back with another episode of the Red Sea podcast, and this time we're doing something a little bit different. It's our AFCON weekly show, the AFCON Watch, and we're quite fortunate. We've got 3 players representing in the African Cup of Nations: Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, and Naby Keita. And arguably, we've probably got the best African footballer playing in the competition, and I'd probably say the second best African footballer playing in the competition in Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane. I mean, when we look at some of the great African players that have gone ahead of him, you know, we think about George Weah, Samuel Eto'o, Yaya Toure, Rugabut Song. You know, we think about a number of fantastic players. Kolo Toure, Didier Drogba, the listed endless. I mean, where does, and it's a good place to probably open the show, where does Mohamed Salah stack up against those greats? I mean, Samuel Eto'o and Didier Drogba have got a star-studded, glittering trophy cabinet. Those guys, and Yaya Toure as well, and Kolo Toure, to be honest. Kolo Toure is actually in Invincibles twice, once with Arsenal and once with Celtic. So,
can you count the second one? Can you?
Yeah, you can only beat who's in front of you. So those guys, George Weah, the only African player to ever win World Player of the Year, which is now the Ballon d'Or. So Africa has had some amazing exports, from Africa, from the continent into Europe as well. All these players have played in Europe, and been successful in Europe, especially when we look at like a Samuel Eto'o with his time at Barca, even his time at Inter, and then his spell in Russia as well was equally as successful. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, where does Mo stack up? Because Mo's trophy cabinet is getting plumper and plumper, and individual accolades are rolling as well. It's a shame he's not won the Ballon d'Or yet, but I think it will come. European Player of the Year, or is it the FIFA Men's Player of the Year, whatever it is. He's been nominated for that as well.
Yeah, shortlisted, isn't he? Yeah, and a free.
He's shortlisted for that. So where does he stack up to these greats?
He's well on his way to be the greatest, isn't he? I think there's a few players in there you've mentioned that have probably just done a little bit more than him in terms of their career, only because it's finished. He's well in his prime. So, you've mentioned Drogba. Samuel Eto'o for me is probably the number one at the minute. I think he's done 2 trebles with Barca and with Inter Milan. He may have won the African Nations Cup with Cameroon.
Oh,
I need to check that one out. But when I used to watch Garth Crooks on BBC 3, I'm sure he got pretty far. When they used to have the old sleeveless Cameroon strips, and then they ended up having onesie ones as well, where the shorts were connected to the shirts as well. So,
mate, Cameroon with their kits,
brilliant,
right, were trend setting because honestly, I remember that kit like it was a Puma kit. Right.
Yeah, it was Puma.
In the green with the yellow and the red on it. It was fantastic. And Rugabut Song in the middle of that midfield. Alex Song as well, playing at the same time as Rugabut, which was very interesting.
His uncle, isn't it, or something?
Yeah, uncle and nephew playing at the same time in the team, which was absolutely fantastic. But also a team that included the late Mark Vivian Foe as well.
Yeah.
So rest in peace to Mark Vivian Foe. And also, African players that have gone after him. Teoto, who played for Newcastle as well, unfortunately passing away.
Was he Ivory Coast?
Ivory Coast, untimely passing for him also. So
Yeah,
you know, the African Cup of Nations, or Africa has made some stars, you know, that have come out of the continent. I'm just looking at Samuel Eto's
he must have
accolades.
won a couple, hasn't he? I'm sure he has.
To see what he's won. Let's have a look.
He's got the 2000 and 2002 AFCONs he won, and a gold medal at the 2000 Olympics as well. That's not bad for your country, is it?
That's very, very good. Yeah. You can see on here AFCON, Cameroon Football Federation, AFCON and Olympics. So he's done all right. That's a glittering career.
Not bad.
Alongside
his club career as well. And if we're saying the best African player ever, they have to have had success on the continent, because this is such a festival of football. I have been critical of the African Nations Cup purely from a selfish point of view, that it's during the season and we lose our two best players. But they've added an extra 8 teams this tournament as well. I think it was the last one that they added that into as well. And they've made it every 2 years, I think, rather than every 4. So I think there is a little bit too much into that, but at the same time, it's a fantastic festival of football.
Do you think it's diluting the competition? I think that's where you're coming from. You think it's diluting the competition?
Yeah, because we had this chat, didn't we, on one of the Liverpool shows, and our argument was, yes, some of the African countries are better than some of the European minnows, so why should it be treated any differently? But at the same time, as you say, we've looked at the results today, and yes, 4 results, 4 1-0 wins, but basically 3 of the 4 loser teams today literally are just parking the bus because they've got nothing else there. They aren't footballing nations with any kind of historical success. So
real footballing pedigree.
Yeah, so the tournament's on Sky Sports, which is excellent. We've had Morocco, Ghana. Yeah, Morocco, Ghana was a good game today, but Egypt, Nigeria tomorrow. But there's a lot of games in there, and I'm not saying you don't get these in the Euros as well. But I agree with what you said. The dilution of the competition. You put it on, and the quality between some of these countries playing each other for me is a little bit left to be desired. But by all means, once we get to the last 16, the quarterfinals, there's some serious competition in there.
Oh, and there's some huge teams in there. We were just talking about the team that Ivory Coast have got. Their forward lineup is absolutely insane.
It's ridiculous.
It's unreal. It's unreal.
Sebastian Haller, Pepe, and Zaha as a front three.
As a front three. That ain't bad. And then you've got Max Cornet in there as well. You've got
Messi.
Kesey as well. You've got some great players in there. And
even 3 of the back 4. You've got Bowley, Aurier, and Bailey. Not well beaters, but they're all Premier League players, or were.
Exactly.
I think Aurier's moved on. But,
and this is what I'm saying. There is some fantastic players in African football playing and representing their countries at the African Cup of Nations, and it should be celebrated. Evening to you, Shane. And who do you think will win the AFCONs? We will come to that a little bit later on.
Good question.
In this show. But just before we move on from Samuel Eto'o,
yes,
can you actually believe, right? And this is the measure of the man.
It's been held in Cameroon as well, isn't it? So it's
and he's also now the federation president of for Cameroon as well in terms of football. But he actually won African Player of the Year 2003, 2004, 2005, and then in 2010. That is fantastic. An African Cup of Nations all-time top goal scorer. So
I think that's who Salah's got to catch, if I'm honest, to be the greatest.
It's gonna be hard because this man's got some serious accolades, and this is what I'm saying. The African nations are breeding some serious players. But let's get into the meat and bones of the show. Definitely. Because first up, we're going to be discussing Senegal and Zimbabwe. Our very own Sadio Mane playing in that game for Senegal up top. And again, Senegal are a team that do have and do boast quite a fantastic set of players. We talk about good quality players plying their trade in European competition. Issa Gana Gueye, currently playing his football at Paris Saint-Germain, formerly of Everton. Sadio Mane in there as well. Obviously, their goalkeeper is Mendy of Chelsea, who has just literally recently in the last season won the Champions League. Cheick Kouyaté in there as well. And a player which I do enjoy, which has kind of gone off the boil a little bit, But Keito Bede, how do you say his name? God, Keito Bede Dio. He was playing at Lazio the last time I remember watching his games, and he was actually a decent player. Very, very explosive. He's a winger. And as I said, last time I checked in on him, he was playing at Lazio. I'm not sure where he's at the moment, but I do remember enjoying his performances when I did watch Serie A football. Serie A football's been in the mud for a little while, so I haven't really been watching that.
It's a good game the other night, though.
I'm being honest. Oh, it was a very good game the other night. It was a very, very good game the other night. So Serie A is slowly working its way out of the mud. But let's get into nooks and cracks again, because it was very stale, wasn't it? I mean, Senegal were attacking, constantly pressing Zimbabwe for the whole game. And like we spoke about, Zimbabwe practically parked the bus for most of the 90 minutes.
I think that's a lot of these countries are going to come up, against, you got Senegal, Ghana, Nigeria, Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria, all these teams that, like you say, boast some of Europe's, in terms of where they play their club football, best players that there are, Champions League, serial Champions League players. So countries like Zimbabwe, with no disrespect, are coming up against Senegal. It's a bit of a mismatch, and they need to try and frustrate these opposition players, because they've not played against anybody of the levels of Sadio Mane and Idrissa Gueye probably before. These Zimbabwean players, obviously they are. Some of them are professionals. Some of them, I would imagine, probably not quite so much, or in the lower leagues that you've mentioned in various places. But yeah, I think Senegal did deserve to win it. They left it incredibly late. A very unfortunate penalty given away. It was a sort of a block, a slide. He kind of had his arm there, but you can't make it disappear. So for me, I think it was very, very harsh. But Sadio Mane, a little bit of pressure, steps up, last kick of the game, and as you said at the beginning of the show, a much needed 3 points is what you want. First game of the group stage, only 3 matches. Once you get a win, bearing in mind the third place goes through, you're pretty much qualified already. So
yeah,
that's exactly what they needed. And with Senegal, like you mentioned, Mendy is the goalkeeper. Koulibaly's in there as well. Both were out with COVID, and Senegal did actually have a little bit of an outbreak. They only had 6 players on the bench for that game. I believe Zimbabwe had pretty much their entire squad on the bench, I think up to 12 or something. So yeah, they were lacking a bit. Good job they didn't lose Gueye, Koyate, and Mane as well, but did enough for me. It's one of them games. You see some of the ones in the Euros, when they're on at like 2 p.m. and the atmosphere is just not there. Middle of the day, no one's watching. I looked at the stadium. It's being held in Cameroon. In the middle of the day, it's there was barely anybody there watching, so it was quite a flat atmosphere. A little bit like behind closed doors that we had in the Premier League. But yeah, like you say, did enough. That tiny little bit more quality than Zimbabwe. They showed a lot more in the game. The stats didn't lie. 61% possession, 16 shots, but only 3 on target. So I think they're going to need to improve that, because they've got Guinea as well in this group.
Yeah, I know, and that'll be interesting to see Keita and Mane come up against each other.
Yeah.
But I think the best team won in that game, I have to be honest. Sadio Mane cropping up with a late penalty in the 97th minute. And like we said, I think that Zimbabwe could feel hard done by with that penalty, because in the Premier League, is it being given?
No.
And that's the thing. He's gone in, he's made a challenge. Yes, it has made contact with the hand, but was the hand in an unnatural position? No, it wasn't. So I think the ref has been very overzealous with giving that as a penalty. So Senegal should feel very fortunate that they've actually managed to make it out of that game with the points. I mean, in the other game today, we talk about the Guinea and Malawi game today as well, and I just think the quality on showing this game was quite limited. Guinea didn't really offer much, I have to say. Keita had a decent game though. I will give credit where credit's due. He had a good game. He did run that midfield. He was very industrious. He was trying to get the ball forward. He was picking up holes in the pocket. He was playing some decent football from what I saw. But it was very flat, like you mentioned as well, in that particular game, and you start to think, like, have these two teams got the quality to necessarily go deeper in the competition? I don't think that either, Guinea or Malawi will potentially find themselves.
No, I
in
don't.
the
I
later
don't
stage
think.
of the competition.
I don't think Guinea. I mean, obviously they've got the star man in Naby Keita, not necessarily for Liverpool, but in terms of African football and especially in that country, he's the big poster boy, isn't he? But like you say, the rest of the team, they're playing a back five against Malawi. Kind of tells you where that they are as a country, where they are as a footballing nation. It's not great. If you take Naby Keita out that team, it could even possibly be pretty even in terms of lineups because I don't really know anybody else in that squad other than Naby Keita.
Like you said, you look at the lineups and there isn't anybody that necessarily stands out. Naby Keita is the standout player. He is the captain of that team as well. And ultimately, we're very, very lucky to pick up the goal. He was actually at the heart of the move. He started it with the pass, but the pass wasn't a great one. The attacker was very lucky to actually latch onto it and put it back across the goal for the finish. And the goal scorer at 35 minutes. And the game, again, it went a bit flat after that. It's very stale. The ball movement was good from Guinea, and they were looking to move the ball, phenomenally well. But it was just a little bit stale.
I mean,
sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I was going to say Guinea had a lot of the ball, didn't they? But Malawi, in terms of chances, in terms of highlight reels, the Guinea goalie was definitely the busier of the two. Nearly every single highlight is the Guinea goalkeeper making some saves, and he was quite fortunate. He was a little bit Teflon.
That's what I'm saying. He's almost the architect of his own downfall with that first one, though, wasn't he? But the shot was there to be taken by the Malawi forward because he's tried to do his best, Alisson Becker impression, and hit out a ball that was a little bit wayward, let's say. Sometimes, but as I say, when those things come off, you look like Pele with gloves, and when they don't, it's like, oh my God, what are you doing? and that was one of those moments. It could have been a head and hands moment because the way that the striker from Malawi got hold of that ball, it was a ferocious shot. And you heard the contact with the gloves as well. The goalkeeper was called into action and he wasn't found wanting. So, credit to the keeper.
Absolutely. I think that's going to be the crunch game, isn't it? I mean, obviously, both of them you would think are going to go through. You'd think Guinea will, maybe edge Zimbabwe, or even if they get a 0-0 draw, you think Senegal will probably win 3 out of 3. I think they're the two teams to go through in this group. I think is it like 6 or 4 of the best 6 third places go through. So, if there's a winner between Malawi and Zimbabwe, when they play each other, one of them could sneak through. But I think if they draw, they'll probably take each other out, don't they? So, I think the last 16, you'll probably see a lot of one-sided games. You'll be able to pick the winner as you look through them. As I say, the quarterfinals is where it gets a little bit more tasty. And like you said, you'll lose the flatness because the games will probably be played at 8 p.m. There'll be more people wanting to watch. Even Cameroon locals will want to go and watch 2 big teams playing against each other in a festival of football. So I think at the minute, like you say, middle of the day, a couple of teams that aren't really any good, or the result is quite predictable at the minute with some of these matches. But there's some decent ones coming up for sure.
There is indeed, and tomorrow, what is threatening to be a big one. We look at Nigeria versus Egypt. Our very own Mohamed Salah heading into that game, and again, Nigeria have got some decent players in there, and Nigeria have always won the award over the last 2-3 years of the best African kit that you can see, because they've made some serious kits, and over the last couple of years, almost made me tempted to buy one myself. To be fair, but that's the big one. Mo Salah takes centre stage in the AFCON, looking to start Egypt off. With the right result.
It'll be a good one. I think Nigeria are one of them teams where ever since I've been growing up, especially in the early 2000s, they were a decent team on the world stage. They were getting to World Cup last 16 games. I think JJ Okocha, Kanu, John Obi Mikel was another good player that they had recently. So
Fleming Martins.
Yeah, absolutely. He was a fantastic forward. But in terms of forwards now, Iheanacho and, forgive my pronunciation, but Ousmane from Napoli, the blonde highlights. So they've got a decent forward line. Whether they go for a front 2, they may need to make that a 5-3-2 if they want to fit their best players in. But other than that, they are, I think, again, a team in a bit of transition. I don't think they're the Nigeria of old. The rest of their team aren't, particularly well-known worldwide names. So I do think Egypt may edge it, but again, Mo Salah is the golden boy. Other than Mo Salah, Egypt are a pretty average team as well. But
Yeah,
I always feel the North African teams are always quite strong when it comes to the tournaments.
yeah. I mean, he is the poster boy of African football at the moment.
Yeah.
As we were discussing before the show, and just as we entered. But if you look at the current form guide, Nigeria in their last game was a draw with Cape Verde, a 2-0 win over Liberia, a 2-0 win over the Central African Republic, but a loss at home to the Central African Republic as well. And then a 2-0 win over Cape Verde and a 2-0 win over Liberia. Again, prior to that, Egypt are in fantastic form. A win over Gabon, a 2-2 draw with Angola, a 3-0 win over Liberia, a 1-0 win over Liberia, and then Libya, excuse me. And then a 3-0 win over Libya, a 1-0 win over Libya, and then a 2-0 win over Liberia, and then a 1-1 draw against Gabon. So if you look at the form guide at the moment, Egypt look like they are slightly edging that in terms of the amount of wins that they've put onto the board in particular fixtures. But it's going to be interesting to see what Mohamed Salah does in these games. He's so goal hungry, and he's obviously going to want to light up these African Cup of Nations, especially to put African football on the map. I do think some of the recent recognition that we're seeing of African football is down to Mohamed Salah and the football that he's been playing on the European stage at the moment. That's not to forget some of the great exports, which we spoke about at the start of the show and prior to the show from African football. George Weah, Didier Drogba, Yaya Toure, Kolo Toure, Essien. The players of the early 2000s, where African football, especially in the Premier League and European leagues, really came to the forefront with these huge powerhouse players. Every single one of them, built and we speak about the runs that Yaya Toure used to make. He was like an absolute train. Essien was like a unit in the middle of that park for Chelsea. Didier Drogba, another big player as well. So, African football has come a long way. And like you said, this festival of football, which we're seeing on our screens, today and over the next coming days, is absolutely fantastic, especially because Sky Sports are hosting and showing all of the games.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been interested to have a little look because Algeria, also not featuring a Liverpool player, but they do make their, bow in the tournament tomorrow. They're obviously the current holders. Mahrez helping them win the trophy last time out. Egypt won the trophy 3 in a row, 06, 08 and 10. So probably before Salah was kind of involved, but they lost in the final in 2017. So they have got there before fairly recently. But it's going to be an interesting one. Ivory Coast haven't won it since 2015. We mentioned them looking like a really, really solid squad. Senegal have never won the competition, which I was quite surprised to see. So I think Sadio Mane, probably going to be the best chance that he gets to lead them with, with Mendy, with Koulibaly, with Gay as well. So there's some big competition. If we get a semi-finals of, Egypt and Ivory Coast, Cameroon and Algeria or Senegal, that's going to be tough to call. So there's some big players in there. It's going to be very much, when they do the whole Sky Sports of Liverpool versus Chelsea, they put Salah and Mount up or whatever. It's all about which star player turns up on the day for me. I think other than that, they're quite hard to split some of these teams. I
totally agree with you. And as we kind of head in towards the final parts of the show, we asked the question, who is going to lift that tournament? The trophy. Who is going to win the trophy? My money personally is on Egypt. I think personally with Mohamed Salah in there and him spearheading that team, they do look like favourites. But again, Algeria winning the competition last time, they're not to be written off. Riyad Mahrez is a phenomenal talent. And again won a number of trophies with Manchester City and also won the league with Leicester. So he's also proving that you can be from a smaller nation in the African continent, a sub-nation in the African continent, and still be, a prominent force in the Premier League. But my money personally, and I can't discredit Egypt just simply for the Mohamed Salah effect. If you've got Mohamed Salah in your team, you stand a very, very good chance. I mean, what are you thinking?
I agree, and again, it's on massively on the star player. Can these players literally drag their teams to the trophy? We look at players like Gareth Bale in Europe, dragging Wales to, their highest ranked in, 100 years, getting them qualified for major tournaments for the first time in forever. But for me, Ivory Coast, I just look at their squad and it's just stacked. If you can get Zaha, Pepe and Haller, Haller is on fire at Ajax. I look at Ivory Coast recent results. Other than a loss to Cameroon in November, they've beaten Mozambique, Malawi twice. They beat Cameroon back in September. They beat Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, Niger, Madagascar. So they've been on a decent run. They've not lost many games over the past couple of years. So if they can get that team playing, Bowley, Bailey, and Aurier at the back, decent squad, and they have got history in this competition. They are in terms of African football, a big footballing nation. So for me, I get the Mo Salah, the Sadio Mane effect, and if Senegal get Mendy and Koulibaly back, they should be pretty strong as well. But in terms of an 11, I don't see anybody with a better starting 11 than Ivory Coast. So
yeah,
I would probably put my money on them. I think they were 8-1 to win, so I was tempted, but I thought I might just see how they got in their first game before I dip my toe in.
It's Equatorial Guinea that they're playing, isn't it? In the first game,
Algeria in the group, which is not easy.
No, and again, but even if they qualified second out of the group, it's still a route to the finals, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be honest. But guys, we're going to start to wrap things up. This has been our first AFCON show, our AFCON watch show, where we'll be keeping an eye on the exploits of Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah, and Naby Keita in specific. But we'll also be talking genuine African football to the best of our knowledge. But our main focus is obviously going to be on our Liverpool players and how they're doing in the competition. We'll be keeping you up to date with scores and goal scorers in those games that our Liverpool players will be participating in.
Yeah.
What have we got coming up for the rest of the week?
We're busy. Very busy. We've got Transfer Tuesday tomorrow. Yeah. Second instalment with Chris Pajak from Redmen TV. So really looking forward to that. Few more rumours flying about now than there were this time last week. Yeah. Wednesday night, we've got the Arsenal-Liverpool preview, which is now the Liverpool-Arsenal preview because the games have swapped round for the Carabao Cup semi-final. We'll then be doing Red Sea full-time after that game as well. Liverpool play Brentford at the weekend as well. So either Friday or Saturday night, we'll be doing Fab 4.
We will be indeed. Guys, make sure you're looking into Everything Red Sea Pod and make sure you are there. If you're not already, please like and subscribe. Your support is much appreciated. We will catch you at our next show.